Okay.
All right, so I won't say any mean stuff about people then.
There you go.
They can blackmail me for the rest of my life.
It won't go away from here. Don't worry.
Okay. No, that's fine. Um, no, in all seriousness, so the upper school is basically fully enrolled in advisories, and there's like a TBD on who the fifth, eighth grade advisor is. So there's an advisory without an advisor, and that's fine, but it has kids in it. Like there's a group of kids, there's just no advisor, but we'll sort that sooner or later.
Kids
Um,
dream.
sometime between now and September, I imagine we'll get an advisor. Um, and actually, the only thing I haven't enrolled yet, because I saved it because it only got finalized about an hour ago, was the fifth grade language splits because it was like they go through that rotation, so they haven't picked them. And I had Virginia and Ashley make a different grouping of kids than their like groups for the other classes, just so we'd introduce some variation. And so they were working on that this morning. And so I saved that if you wanted to sort of see how the
Mhm.
like book upload thing works. But there's really like three ways. Well, there's four ways to do it, um, at least. One is to pull up a child and then literally enroll them in each of the things. That's the slowest option.
No, thank you.
That's like that would be what you would do if you had if we got like a new student,
Right.
right? Like after the fact and you needed to like add them into their stuff. Like then that might be good. Or if you needed to go into a kid and like switch them from this section to that section for some reason, like that would be a good tool there.
Right.
Um, then there's an option where you can go into the classes and the actual sections and you can add a teacher. And then there's a section where you can add students and you can just, and that's okay, still not super great because you literally have to type each kid's name in and, type enough letters that it whittles down and pick the one you want and then hit, done, add another and keep going and put them in one by one.
Right.
So you still have to like type everybody.
No, thank you.
Um, but that's slightly faster than the other way. Then there's what they call under scheduling. What's the actual name of it? Um, Enroll group. And that's probably, other than the file, probably the fastest option because then you can go in and you can pick a school year and a group and you could pick like the whole grade as your pick list. Or if you have another class that has the subset of kids you want, you can pick that class and suck all the kids from that class and then essentially add them into a different class. So like in upper school, for example, like where there might be like travel groups, like so like 5A might be like I could put it in one thing and then I could just suck them, I could put them in one by one from the fifth grade list into that thing and then suck them back and drop them into all their other things. And so um if you can find like a group that's like, or like when you're doing like the arts and tech rotation thing that like you obviously had, right? Like once you create the fall ones, you can just suck back in the fall group that was art one and put it into tech one and art two
Right.
into tech two and so on. And so that's reasonably fast because your list is already kind of there.
Right.
And then I'd say the fastest option, which took a little bit of lead time just to figure out how to do it, like over on Friday, but now it's like super fast, is the file-based thing. You
Yep.
just essentially send it a CSV file with the right fields and it like parses it and validates it and then just drops them in. And it seems to run in some kind of weird batch job mode from what I've gathered. If you sent it something massive, if we were like an enormous school, it would run in like an overnight batch. As long as you send it under like, I don't know, more rows than we would likely ever send it. It'll run sort of ish in real time. It seems like there must be a sweep every 5 to 10 minutes
Mm.
because I put it there, it goes created and it kind of hangs. And a few minutes go by, and then all of a sudden it seems to start like magically working on it. And sometimes it's a little faster and sometimes it's a little slower. Um, so there must be some batch running in the background that every so often sweeps through and looks for new jobs and runs them. And so as long as you're a small job, which we're likely to pretty much always be, unless
Right.
we tried to literally put the whole thing into one file, um, then it kind of, and it either will fail if it like if there's something wrong with your file, like it can't find a student or it can't find the class you're trying to put them in or like whatnot. Then like I just set up so then the whole job will just fail, which is sort of better because and then but it will give you back a file then you can look at and tell you like which rows failed and it gives you like some kind of message at least about why it failed. That usually is mostly helpful. The only thing I could not figure out for the life of me is for some reason, like those third trimester arts electives,
Yeah.
it would not let me do through that file. Like there was nothing different about them.
Hmm.
Uh, it worked great for first and second trimester and first and second semester. And then I don't know, it did not like third trimester. So that was confusing. But I just took the first trimester ones and dropped them into the third trimester after the fact, and it was not a big deal.
Let me ask you this question because I was looking at the list that Ashley gave me for the lower school.
Hmm.
And so one of the questions that I had was, you know how some kids have their name and then the nickname in the file.
Yes.
Does it take both or does it just take,
So what I did here, why don't I screen share and
yeah,
I can kind of answer probably a bunch of those questions because upper school is also more confusing because obviously kids are in a bunch of different sections and stuff.
sure, sure.
So here, let me screen share this and then maybe I can kind of answer many of these questions at least. All right, let's see if I go. I think this will work. Let's try this. Actually, you know what? Why don't I just screen share desktop because then I can switch
Yep.
windows and it will be less than right. All right, you see my desktop maybe? Okay, great. So, you see this file with a whole bunch of like fifth graders?
Yep.
Okay, so this whole file from column A through M was like my file. This is actually what I use when we do all that, those meetings in the spring and we talk about, we put kids into the groups and like all that magic happens in those like meetings at the end of the year.
Yep.
And so I have each kid, I obviously have their grade. The bolded ones are just new students. That's why they're bold, right? Their advisors are in column C and their like travel group things in D and their language. And so in fifth grade, it's like these five, like the language groups that Virginia and Ashley just made. But then like once you get to sixth grade, it's obviously their actual language. Then they can put in what we call a music group, and that's what they're in for like music and whatever other stuff like Math Lab or Capstone that rotates with that. And then their themes group. And then if I go all the way down to the eights, you'll see their arts electives show up in column J and K.
Okay.
Um, we don't have enough groups to use H and I anymore, and like chorus hasn't happened in a million years, so L is kind of like a legacy thing. But that's kind of what happens. So these are just all the kids in the upper school. And then this other tab is basically all our classes. So if I go back up to the top, right, there's like all the fifth grade classes, right? The department and column C and the grade level, and then the sections and teacher and all this other stuff and location, and then like which groups are actually in it. So the ones that are travel group based have all those like 5H and 5E and 5 whatever. And then the ones that are the music based and the language based, and then the ones that are advisor based and then it switches to sixth grade and kind of does the same thing. So that's
That's
all the
what you
data that
mean.
I have, and this like course thing is what allows me. It's like another spreadsheet that you guys are all looking at in the meeting that sucks all this stuff in, and then like organizes it based on the courses. And so when I switch to English and like the English groups pop up, it's all kind of driven with this data in the background.
Right.
So what I had to add was, in answer to your question, was the Blackbaud user IDs, the Blackbaud first names, and the Blackbaud last names, which I sucked out of I sucked the whole file out of Blackbaud. And then I just sort of parsed it a little bit and did a join into this. So like, regardless of what we're calling them in column A, this is what Blackbaud knows them at. And so ultimately, like the file I uploaded is going to use the stuff from like N and U and V. The only really weird thing I discovered after it like failed on the sixth or like the fifth grade or some grade was that like Blackbaud does have those little like accented symbols on like people's O's or I's or whatever's
Yep.
in their name. But when I put that into the file and send it back, it freaks out and can't find them. And so I had to, for people that had those, I had to basically go into column U or V and like take them out
Right.
which is weird because it has them stored and like if you look in Blackboard, it shows the symbols, but somehow like it only matches without that. It was weird. I didn't really understand why, but I was like, okay, whatever. And then on the course side, like the other columns I had to pull from Blackboard are basically this is what it has for the course code in column P, what it knows the course name to be in column Q, what it knows the section name to be for the particular section of like math or English that I want to put the kid in. Um, and then like the Blackbaud term, which is either first semester or first trimester, or second trimester, third trimester, which for some reason doesn't like. And then in the case of like eighth grade, arts electives, for example, if I go down here, right, there's like, here's some second semester stuff. And here's the eighth grade second semester arts electives. So yeah, here. Anyways, so these four columns PQ are and S is sort of what Blackbaud needed. And so what I built essentially was this other spreadsheet. All right. Does that show up on your screen?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So I put the school year in here, right? In like whatever this is B4 and division, which like upper school or lower school. And I just made it so I can do one grade at a time. So I put like 8 in for eighth grade, but I can switch that. And then this whole thing in G and H is like I can just put the ones in for the particular departments that I wanna include in my file
Hmm.
because like initially I did like some of those are only relevant to certain grades, right? Like language rotation is only fifth and capstone is obviously only eighth and so on and so forth. Um, but also like when I did it initially, I just did fifth grade English and just like let me do a small file and see what happens here before I like try and send everything and have chaos.
Right.
And then when I confirmed that one, then I obviously did fifth grade without English, so I didn't re-enroll them. Um, I'm not sure what would have happened if I did that. But then, like for now, for example, the only thing I've left to do for fifth grade is language rotation. And so basically, I have the student data tab. Like if I recalculate this, we'll suck in the students from that grade from that other spreadsheet we were just looking at. And the course data will suck in some of the columns from there. And then it kind of does a big join where it takes the groups that are supposed to be in the course and joins them with all these different groups in column like E through K on the student data file and creates this Blackbaud data file,
Okay.
right? And this is actually the file, then I just saved this tab as a CSV, and that's what I sort of send to Blackbaud.
Ah, okay.
So the thing that's left to do, if you want to sort of just see it kind of go really quick, I need to do fifth grade, and I just need to do the language rotations. So if I zero out everything, keep the language rotation, turn off everything else, because it already enrolled in all these guys. And then I just go back here and I have it not on auto calculate right now because otherwise, like it used to just get annoying. I do one thing and it used to have all this other formulas in that other sheet because that literally was like like that's the bare bones remnants of the Robbie Griffin like
Yeah.
space launching thing. And so
Yeah.
if you left that on auto calculate, you type one thing and then you'd have to sit there for a minute while it recalculated like 75,000 other things. But anyway, if I calculate this, now I have the fives in here. And then I can go to course data and pull in the course data for the fives. And then I just go back here and I run this macro that I created. And I just got 46 records. And so if I go to here, right, we can see them, right? There's the fifth grade world language. And so these are the kids' usernames and these are the Blackbaud names and the school. There's going to be semester one, upper school, like they're either in section one, two, or three of this world languages five class. So then I would just go file, save as, I'm just going to overwrite this and make it a CSV file.
Yep, right there. Yep.
And then it's going to tell me I'm only saving the one sheet, which is great. And then I'm actually just going to X this so I don't resave the spreadsheet and rename it into enrollment file, whatever. All right, great. And then, can you see Blackboard right now?
Yep.
Okay. So then you go to core,
Yep.
system tools, data import.
Yep.
And so these are some of the other ones I did, but in any event, if I go create import job, the category is academic groups, the import type is academic enrollment. Then you just give it some random name, not really sure why, but we'll call it that because I deleted that one when I was playing with it earlier. And then I can either drop the file in or I can just pick it. I want this guy. And then if it's going to load, there we go. And
Mhm.
then if I hit validate only, it will just like essentially run a job to like parse my file and confirm that it looks good, but it won't actually enroll anybody. If I hit process now, it adds it to this list. You can see it's up at the top there. It says created. And here's where it kind of hangs for like, and I'm not really sure, to be honest. like why they get saved here. It's very, this part's the only part that's confusing to me about this because there's not much I can do with them. Like I
Right.
can't run them again. Um, the only things I can do with them are view the results or delete them. So I don't know, like I guess I can go back and look at the results like historically, I suppose. So maybe that's why it saves them. I don't really know. I've also discovered sometimes it doesn't like it starts, but it doesn't refresh. And so yeah, it'll sit here in created mode for um, some amount of time and then it'll start, right? You can sort of see the difference between the created times and the start times, and sometimes it's a minute and sometimes it's like 7. So I feel like there's like some bad for a while, like the ones I was doing like on the night of the 12th seemed to all be running on the 2s, but I don't know.
I
Um,
noticed that when I was working with our consultant a little bit on some things, um, there'd be a time where like, it would say like created or loading and it would take forever. And
yeah,
basically,
like so it's I've never had to go like it's never been more than 10 minutes. So it feels it's usually been
oh,
less. Um, so in any event, at some point it will validate it and then it should hopefully either decide it failed because it didn't like something in the file. Or it will hopefully succeed and then we'll kind of get to see these kids
now
in the
where did you find the student IDs? Because I got to get those for the
Okay, so what I did was I ran, I think I did
student list. Yeah,
student list, maybe, let's see.
that makes sense.
And then I exported. And so I left user ID, first name, last name, and then I just exported and graduation year. And you can filter. Um, yeah, so this is exactly what I did because I filtered it and I selected fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. So I only got upper school kids, but you could do the same thing, obviously, with like one grade at a time or the whole lower school. Um, Once I filtered them, then I just like took it like because I got like I did an export and I got a CSV. Um, and then I just like loaded it into Excel, sorted it by graduation year and then by student name, and then kind of used that to join it to the data I had in the best way I could come up with.
Right.
Um, And then yeah, and then like now like I'll just keep like because I think user IDs are permanent for the kids. So like I'll probably just leave those kids in my file and then like a year from now,
Right.
I'll have to pull in the new fives and any new students and everybody else will already have their stuff.
The other thing was in your CSV,
Mhm.
so you broke it down into semester 1 and 2, and then also trimesters as well. Obviously,
Yeah, in
lower
lower school,
school
I
doesn't have
assume you're
that.
just enrolling them in full year things.
Yeah.
So you can just go like for a full year class, like any of our full year upper school classes, you just go first semester. And
Oh,
that
okay.
like because in the class itself, in up like when you create the classes, like you say this is a 2 semester, a 2 term class or a 1 term class, or I guess a 3 term class, which we don't really have. But um, and then you sort of say I want to like so if I like let's say fifth grade English, which is obviously full year, I say it's for 2 terms. And then I say we're offering it in semester 1. And so it automatically goes semester 1, semester 2.
Gotcha.
And it seems to just like, and that works great. And so the only, like, if you look at, um, let's go back to this and see if we made any progress.
So by putting in semester 2, it signals that there are 2 semesters. Otherwise, it just knows it as a full year.
Yeah. So what I end up doing, like, so here, if I go back to like upper school classes, for example, um, right, like the courses, so let me find here. I think I have all the, let me put the filter back on and just have the active ones because I have like, I took that off to find something else. So if I take English 5, for example.
Tell you, for me, the hardest thing is remembering where everything is. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many
And
things
it's
that are
like
nested.
that's the part that's tricky. It's not super intuitive. So this is set up,
Yeah.
right? Each class has a course code,
Yep.
a grade level. Yeah, so length here under settings under the schedule tab. But also this screen's new. Like this used to look totally different a year ago. They like, I'm not sure I like this better, but like whatever. That used to be like used to look just totally different. So this took me a little like, wait, where is everything here? Um, but you notice how it says length 2 terms.
Yeah.
And so then what you end up doing, if I go back here for a minute, like, lower school classes should all, like when you rolled over, all of the lower school classes from last year should have just rolled. So they should hypothetically be there. Um, Upper school it gets a little trickier because we'll like add some new stuff and take away some stuff and kind of change things. But lower, in lower school, you pretty much kind of, at this point, I don't think there's a whole lot that's like new and different other than who's teaching some stuff.
Right.
Um, then you like offer them. And so what happens here, and right now I'm in lower school, I guess. Some of the things just default back to lower school and some don't. Like in fifth grade, right? Like notice I'm in first semester. And so like these are the things that offered. And they're locked at this point because I made sections and put people in them. So I can't like just unoffer them. But like before I did that, they'd just be a check mark and I could like I could pick a new one and offer something else. Um,
Can you go back to lower school for me for a second there?
yeah.
I just want to see what like a like third grade looks like.
All right. What is it doing? Why is it not coming back? Hold on. So if I go to courses, all right, and I go to offer, here we go. I don't know why I didn't do that before. So if I go to like third grade,
Yeah.
right, it just pulled over what you had last year,
Yep.
right? So like unless they're changing something, which in general they're not, you're good to go. The only thing they might like you might have to do is edit like obviously like there's a new science teacher, right? So you're gonna have to go into the science classes and take Kathy out.
Right.
Um, right. So this kind of and so if they were gonna launch something new, right, you'd have to set up as a course and then offer it in the semester. But notice like um most of these are probably most of them notice are set up as two terms. In fact, all
So
of them except for I don't know what standardized testing is, but that's set up as one term.
so let me ask you this. It looks like they don't address this here. Thankfully, because one of the things I was wondering how this gets accounted for in Blackbaud is, they do their arts rotations like every 2 weeks.
Yeah, and so like because they're not trying to drive a kid's schedule. Like so in upper school,
Right.
like when we actually started using it for scheduling, which was a couple years ago, before that we used it for like report cards and enrollment and whatever, but we, did the schedule through the Robbie Griffin thing. And then I was just like, okay, we need to get out of this thing, like, because this is just unsustainable. And I said, we may as well put it in Blackbaud because we already pay for Blackbaud. So why would we buy a new thing? Um, and so it suddenly mattered because a kid couldn't be into classes that met simultaneously, obviously. Um, so we had to actually create like trimester one, trimester two, trimester three, and put the arts electives into their trimesters. Before that, like Kimberly just had it set up because it wasn't driving a schedule as like fall, like semester one and semester two, and she put one of them in semester one and two of them in semester two. And I'm like, this isn't gonna work because then they're like, Blackboard, even though I know in our real world they're not meeting at the same time, like Blackboard's not gonna let me schedule the two things at the same time like that without freaking out.
Right.
Um, but for them, because you're not really building a schedule for students to follow where they could like pull up on this day, this is what I have. Um, you can just enroll them in all of them. And like away from this, they've got a schedule that says we're in rotation A, B, or C. And so like they kind of know. And they've got like in the little schedules that I make them, kind of like the schedule that you would get that looked more like a Google sheet. They have one of those. And so like for the people that teach like lower school art or like Jen Garvey or whoever, she's got like, this is my rotation A schedule, my rotation B schedule, and my rotation C schedule, kind of like how you used to have a fall, winter, and a spring. They have like an A, B, and C. And so like, somewhere in lower school, like, okay, we're switching from like B ends now, we're going to C. And then like they kind of know who's going to show up, right? And they just pivot. So
Where do
you
I
can kind of put the kids in all of them because in any like report card period of time, they're gonna like flip through all of them.
Right. That's what I figured. That's what I
Yeah, so you can just drop the kids in all of them. So this you've got this part, and then there's like this managed classes part, right? And that's where the actual classes are. Um, right. So once they're offered, then you can go in here and create sections, right? And you can see like most of these are term one and term two, like in this first and second column. Like if I go into 3 art, for example, right, you'll notice two sections, right? 3KB and 3NB. So that's the section name when you're talking about like what am I putting in that section name column when you enroll, like when you go to enroll students for third grade art, right? You're gonna need to know, right? The good thing is once you enroll them in 3KB, right? You could even like you could use the file thing, or you could use the group enrollment thing and say, I'm just going to pull out 3 KB and drop them into this and drop them into that and drop them into that. Because you're like the kids don't change groups, right? And so that makes sort of lower school a lot simpler than upper school, where obviously they're in different sections for different things. And then here's where, right, you've got a teacher. So if like Christine left and we hired a new art teacher, that's where you'd have to like change that. And then once you enroll the students, they'll show up here. So the slowest way would be to hit add another student and like manually
Right.
type them all in, right? But I would obviously not recommend that.
No.
Um, but if you have to make a minor tweak and take one kid out or add one kid in, like this is a okay option.
However, Amy, I do get paid by the hour, so.
Ah, well, then maybe I should show you all the slow ways to do it. I, however, don't. So for me, slower is definitely not better.
No, trust me, I don't want it. I don't want to
But
do it
like the
either.
rest of this stuff, like gender, I guess you can make a male or a female. I don't really even know. Like maybe some schools have that. Um, like this would be where you'd put in like blocks if you're trying to actually drive a schedule off of it, and rooms if you're driving a schedule off of it. And then like, but you don't need to worry about any of that because
Right.
you're just basically enrolling kids. You're not trying to build a schedule.
I went into that and I changed the science teacher already.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you figured out some of that basic stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, this is just all the stuff, right? And I think, like,
Can you scroll
and
up to the top for a second?
yeah, I'm on tab 2, but
Yeah, manage classes. Okay, good.
yeah, this is
Oh,
managed classes. The
what
nice
do
thing
you,
is you can go back in here after and um you can click into one of them and like see who's in the various sections and like make sure it looks the way you want it. And then like the various reports you can pick sort of on the right there will allow you to ultimately like see what on earth you created.
oh, so I could actually create a report.
So
And,
you can do, if I hit reports and like I know what I use for upper school, there's a bunch of schedule reports. Like I can do course reports, student reports, like if I pick course reports, for example, um, I guess I don't want that one. If I pick student reports, like I'll run student schedule by date and I'll pick the first 7 days so I can see like an A through G cycle. Um, and you can then specify, um, but you can run a whole bunch of different things here, um, and kind of see like who's enrolled in what and all this other stuff. Um,
can I get the course codes from those as well? The or the course IDs?
so the easiest way to get those, right? Like this will show you teacher schedules, which might be the easiest thing to do for lower school, um, or teacher enrollment matrix or something, or course enrollment matrix, or one of these will probably let you like kind of see what you did at the end of it all. Um, if I go back to scheduling, the easiest way to get those is go set section info,
Okay.
and then you'll see
Ah,
course name, course code, and identifier. Identifier is like, I don't know what it's called, identifier, it's section name. I guess it's a section identifier. So like the 3 fields you need are course name, course code, identifier, and then pretty much it's going to be first semester
okay.
for pretty much everything.
Okay.
You don't need teachers to enroll the kids. Um, and yeah, so this is like the full list. And then I just kind of, in my case, I just manually put them into my file. There's probably a way to extract all this from somewhere. Uh, let's see, reports. Uh, schedule. Yeah, I don't know, somewhere in here there might be a way. Or I wonder if we could somewhere there's definitely got to be a good way to download this, but God only knows what it is because this is where it gets very non-intuitive.
There's just so many headers and
I
then
don't
so
know
much
if there is
nesting
somewhere,
underneath.
but I just ended up pulling mine out and like plug because I already had a list of courses anyway and trying to figure out how
Right.
to join
Right.
that to this would have been more annoying than just retyping them. I just did that. And the nice thing too is there's an obvious like naming convention so you can kind of figure out what you're doing and do some cutting and pasting. Let's see what happened to our thing. Okay, so that
There you go.
completed, which means now if I go back to academics, which is where most of the other stuff is, um, right? Now, if I go to that fifth grade, um, look at upper school, and I think it's on the last tab. Yeah, here we go. And I go manage classes, right? Now these things have kids in them,
Yep.
right? Which they didn't like before ran that job, right? And there's section two, and there's another list of kids. So this is a good way to view the list of kids, right? Not necessarily a great way to, um,
So that was interesting. So I noticed in your spreadsheet, to go back to my original question, you didn't put the nicknames in there, but they came in because they were already registered in Blackbaud.
So when Blackboard puts the kids in, because really, I think the only thing, honestly, that's super critical would be the user ID. I think
The
with
number,
user
right?
ID would be, I put the names in because I just didn't want to have something that felt so like black, like, because obviously I can't look at like a seven-digit number and be like, oh, that's Johnny.
Sure.
Um, so I kind of wanted the names there for my own sanity so I could see like what
Yeah.
I was doing in a way that like was meaningful. But yeah, like here it's going to display the kid as it knows it, which includes the nickname, includes obviously class of 29, obviously. Um, so this is what I think Blackbaud calls like the display name or something, or some here. Like if I go back to this and we go to this student list thing again, this is what they call like, well, it's not even quite the student summary because the student summary seems to have the full graduation year.
Yeah.
It's some other version. I don't know what
Okay.
column.
Whatever.
Preferred, yeah, like there's all these random fields that Blackbaud seems to have. Um, we don't have, so like the other thing is, like when I went to data import, when I was first trying to figure this out, and I did this before, I was like, okay, how does this even work and what needs to be in my file?
Yeah.
Um, Once I picked that I want academic groups, academic enrollment, there's this file layout help section, which is a little helpful. So if I hit that,
Yep.
it says I could do it three ways. One thing I discovered really quickly is we don't populate host ID, so that option one was out. Um, so I went with option two,
Yep.
um, because I did not, I don't know if like, I like the idea of having like just a little bit more stuff in there. And it actually, so I can hit detailed view and it kind of tells you like what's required and a little bit more details about the stuff. It doesn't seem to be super sensitive like to exactly having the right order. It drives off the column names being correct, it seems like. Like, so if you look at my file, my CSV file, like row one uses those column names and then in the columns, I think like, so it's flexible on the order because even in there, like they also show you a sample file, right? And if I download that, right, like there's their sample version, right? Like in, I guess it's a number, so like it's not in CSV format anymore,
Right.
but it's basically a CSV file and it kind of shows you like kind of what they're supposed to look like. Um, Seems like if you leave the enrollment type out, like it defaults to regular, so I just left those out. Um,
And you
But
know,
yeah, it just gave me a sense of at least like what my file was like. And when I looked at the actual file in like, not in numbers, I was able to like see, yeah, it's comma delimited. And so I kind of just built mine in Excel and saved it as a CSV and it was all good. The first time I ran it, I just did validate only because I was like feeling a little nervous. And then I was like, wait, now I got to like create a new job again because you can't rerun it. So I'm like, great, it validated, but now I gotta just like do it over anyway. So I was like, that was not very exciting.
can you send me that that fifth grade language CSV just so I have it as an
Yeah,
example?
definitely. Um, yeah, and as long as you like, like you could probably take my Excel spreadsheet and like tweak it to pull the data, like your data in and use that if you want to use macro, or you could just like create the data into your own CSV and cut and paste stuff in and tweak it and then upload it. Um, I did sort of a grade at a time just because I felt like it was managed chaos.
Yep.
And honestly, like the reason I have more jobs than like just one per grade was like fifth grade and roll one was just the English classes because I was like, okay, let's like see what's going to happen here. In fact, that one I didn't even do the spreadsheet yet. I was like, let me just like test the waters, make sure it's going to work before I spend a lot of time like building like something that's I'm gonna ditch.
Yep.
And then when I was like, okay, this works, I was like, all right, now let me build something better. Um, And yeah, like eighth grade enrolled two was like capstone because I had like a typo, and so they didn't enroll and everything else did. And so I had to like, okay, they're in everything except for capstone classes. Like, all right, let's fix this and start over. Um, but yeah, like the nice thing was in the few cases where there was like really like the thing with the accents on the kids' names that failed, like the whole file failed, and even though, but it showed me which rows failed, and it was the two rows that had
That's
kids. So
good.
I was like, okay, I can see what's going wrong here. These two kids are failing, and everybody else is good. Um, and so I was like, well, like Blackboard does know them that way, but let me see what happens if I take it out, and that was enough to fix it.
It's really interesting that you're saying this because so in my eighth grade elective, whenever we would work with like say like Arduino code or something like that, any kind of code, and they would run it through the IDE and then it would compile and they would get an error. And I and the error would always show them the line. And they would just automatically come to me and say, Mr. Schwartz, where's the error? It's just showing an error. I said, it's telling you right there where to look, but they can never get it through there, or either that or they were lazy or it was both.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like they're not sure how to like because in this you've got to pull it up and then you got to like it's another you get back a CSV and you got to open it somewhere and scroll down pass
Right.
fail and then in column two like B or something it would be like some funky-ish message but useful enough that I could figure out what was wrong. Like
Exactly.
what I
Exactly.
did notice because the reason Capstone failed um like there was like so one thing that was kind of dumb there was an old version of Capstone that was inactive, but it had the same course name and same course code. So it was like a duplicate.
Ooh,
So when I went to enroll them, it was like basically I got some error message back that said, because I downloaded it, I could figure out what it said. It said something like, be this one. Yeah, it basically said multiple matches. So here's like what I got back when Capstone fell the first time. Um, and it was like, okay, like multiple matches course, like, and I was like, huh. And then I looked, and that's why actually I had turned back on the inactive classes because I was like, well, there's not like multiple capstones, except for maybe there's like an old one that we like invalidated. And yeah, sure enough, I turned it off and it had the same course name and course code. And so I left the course name, but I just changed the course code to like eight capstone and then reran it and it was fine.
gotcha.
So if there's an inactive version of like any of the lower school classes that have like that are using the same course code and course name, you're just gonna need to like change the course code to like put an X on the end of it or whatever, and then it'll be happy again. It was weird to me because to me, like a better system would have been like, okay, the class is inactive, so nobody's gonna enroll kids in it. So like it shouldn't have looked there. It should have just automatically tried to enroll kids in active classes, um, but apparently not.
Right. That'd be
Apparently the search and matching thing was not like using the active as like a feature. So I was like, all right, whatever. So there's like quirky things like that that show up. The one thing I'm thinking we probably want to change because like until we started using it for scheduling, we didn't have first, second, and third trimester in here at all.
right.
Um, I put them in because I'm like, no, no, if we're gonna use it for like a schedule, like kids can't be in like the arts rotations in upper school can't be first and second semester. They need to be first, second, and third trimester because the kids can't be into it at the same time. So one needs to end before the next one starts. And so I created those, and initially there's a little bit of a hiccup because then, like, they didn't initially show up. Well, as you probably remember, they didn't show up for you to enter comments, and then they didn't show up for you to enter, and then they didn't show up on the report cards because it was all like everything in that section was keying off of first semester, and then I just had to go in and add first trimester, and then once that worked, I added like second and third trimester, and so that's like that stuff's all kind of better now. But sports never got like modified. So sports you'll notice is still in like all like fall sports are first semester and winter and spring sports are second semester. And I think we'd be for a lot of reasons we'd be better off making them first, second, and third trimester.
Mm,
It would mean that we can control them. So for example, like Carlo put in like wrestling ended and Carlo entered all his wrestling comment stuff, but then that screwed up the mid semester in the spring because
right.
it was second semester. It was set up as a second semester, not a second trimester thing. And like you couldn't turn it off without turning off everything for second semester, which obviously wouldn't have made any sense because then we wouldn't be showing anything.
Right,
So there was no way to like get those not to show up on the report card in mid-semester, but get normal mid-semester stuff to show up because it was all the same second semester academic stuff. And so he had to literally go and delete all the comments back out and then wait and then put it like, which was obviously really annoying. Whereas if it had been second trimester, we could have just disabled second trimester from the mid-semester reports and it all would have been happily ever after.
right,
Um, and so, and like it would just, a lot of things I think would flow more seamlessly. Also, when we got to end of year, and then Virginia was really stressed because she didn't want the fall trimester art electives on the end of your report card. So like your tech, what would it be, like fifth grade tech was showing back up on the end of year ones.
right,
And she, even though that obviously had been on the end of semester one ones, and she didn't want it there again. And that was easy to turn off.
right,
Okay, let's just get rid of first trimester. But then she didn't want full sports on there. And I was like, okay, that's a problem because that's first semester, but we
right,
want like first and second semester for 2 semester things. And when I tried turning off first semester, then like the first half of like English and science and everything else disappeared. And I was like, okay, that's not good. Um, and the only way to do it was essentially to go into those fall sports and say, don't show on the report card, which was kind of cheating.
right.
But um, but that was the only way I could get them off of there. Whereas if they had been first trimester, they would have disappeared as easily as the arts elective. So I think we'd be better off like flipping those, like flipping fall sports to be first trimester, which
Yep,
is not scary because the first trimester stuff works now,
right.
right? It works for the fifth, sixth, and seventh grade arts electives, and then like it would be a little bit of work, but it'd be easy for me to tweak because I kind of know how I did it when I did it for the arts rotation things. Um, and then you would just enroll the kids like normal once they pick their fall sports. Um, but then I think it would just make more logical sense. And then if we decided like, because a lot of people keep going like, well, why isn't like those second trimester arts electives like, why are we waiting till the end of year to give the kids the grades for those? Because it's a really and the comments because that's like a major, like we could then choose to put them on the mid semester if we wanted to.
Right.
Like we don't have to, but we could because we'd be able to control them separately. Because
Yeah.
it's always seems sort of a little weird that like those things end in like February or March and then kids don't get any feedback really till like June.
Yeah. I get that question about 50 times,
Yeah,
when am I gonna get my grades
initially it
in?
was like, oh well, we can't, and I'm like, no, I don't think it's that we can't. Like we've set them up in a way that makes it really hard.
It's just that it's a mixed message because we try to tell them like mid semester is just really like a snapshot in time.
Yeah,
Oh, but wait a second. Does mid semester
this semester comes out in April, so it's still not a perfect timing, um, but you know, it's funny. Like I've had kids in a whole bunch of other schools, obviously, as and like in one of my kids' schools, like most of the stuff was for fall and spring semesters, like we have, but they too had like a tiny bit of stuff that went on trimesters. And they just issued like a separate report card with just the trimester
yeah,
grades, like
yeah,
when
I've
those
seen that.
ended, and it just showed that. And like it was just a little baby report card that was like on its own time frame
I've seen
and
that.
just like came out with just their like like when the fall trimester like art thing would have ended, they'd just get like a thing with like one class
Yeah.
and like their trimester grades and then it sort of totally fit the trimester time frame, which doesn't fit the semester time frame except for the end of year part.
So, somehow I seem to remember, and you tell me if this is, I mean, because now I'm thinking about it, now it doesn't make sense. But anyway, I'll tell you what I was told is that mid-semester doesn't get recorded for like their permanent record.
It
Um,
doesn't because if you remember like well I guess it's slightly well no yes you do enter grades, you just enter letter grades, right? You do grade them in their tech things.
you give
um
them their range, yeah,
Right. But so that's the difference. Like if you think about what you do at the end of the class, right? You give them a grade like A minus, B, whatever. And so that records. Whereas in mid-semester, it's just like text in a comment,
Right,
right? And so that's not going anywhere other than in the comment,
right,
right? Whereas when you actually go into the field and give them a grade at the end of the thing, like that's what gets recorded.
right, right,
And so that's the big difference.
right.
Um, and then I think on their transcript, like all that shows up are the letters,
Just letters, yeah.
like the fall letter, the spring letter. Their final, and apparently their final exam letter is obviously averaged in to their end of year grade for like the courses that have final exams. But it doesn't even show up as a separate column on the transcript. The transcript just shows
Right.
like semester one, semester two, and then like overall grade. And yes, there's this magic other like thing in the computation.
Yeah, I'm gonna be rebuilding the transcripts because those were in the old system.
Okay.
So
Okay. So
I'm
those
gonna
you'll
be
rebuild at
starting
some point. Yeah.
to rebuild those.
Yeah. And the one thing I will say, like if you start, because at some point you'll have to start messing around with report cards just to make some tweaks here, there, or at some point. Um,
We did
my
already.
strong recommendation would be to take, like, if you've got a report card that's basically working, make a copy, um, and then edit like either the new one or the old one or whatever. But that way you've got like you've preserved what was there because there's no like undo button.
Yeah,
And there's no like cancel, don't save my changes kind of button in some cases either. So like in a lot of cases, like once you've done the thing, right, and you're like, oh, that didn't come out the way I wanted, there's no way to like you can in a Google Doc to like pull up history and say like roll me back to the thing I had like from last week. Um, like none of those like features exist.
right.
Um, so I've always found like it's a great idea to have like the version like that's working while you're trying to improve it so that if it turns out you didn't improve it, you made it worse, like you can just go back to the starting point again instead
I
of having to figure out how to unscrew up what you just did.
think it was like a week or two after school, I sat down with uh, Virginia, Ashley, and Chelsea,
Right.
and I kind of got like their wish list of some things,
Okay.
and then with combination of Kimberly and this consultant, we went
Mhm.
through the list and changed a bunch of things.
Okay,
You know,
cool.
tweak, move this up, move this down, that type of thing,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, and some stuff's like weird. Like there's definitely some quirky features that I've discovered. I also noticed like if you go into the report card thing, there's the mean tab, there's the tab where you put like the sections and the layout, and then there's like that third sort of tab where you can change like the font and the size and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
underline
yeah.
and bold and the colors and like that tab for some reason seems to not work well if I'm in Google Chrome. It seems to work better in Safari.
Oh, interesting.
Because I was like, wait, like this tab seems broken, like it won't launch, like I can't get there, or like I go there and it's blank, or it
Right.
won't even put me there. But then I was like, this is weird. And so I went to Safari and ran it, and then it like worked perfectly. And I was like, huh. So I don't know if it was just me or if my laptop is in
Um,
a weird state or if my Google Chrome like, has some like thing turned on or turned off that was making it not function right in there, but probably. But yeah, like it's definitely sometimes slightly sensitive.
my students used to ask me all the time, why, Mr. Schwartz? And I said, because I have no idea why. I'll be honest with you. I have no idea.
Yeah, Blackbaud definitely has a lot of those like
Yeah.
it's just how it is
Yes.
things
Yes.
that you kind of get used to that are a little quirky. I think, I guess it's sort of like any system that number one is trying to work for lots of schools that all want to do things a bit differently than each other. So it's got like, as opposed to just having the options and working the way we want, it obviously works the way like it's got lots of flexibility and, that's both good and bad because it means like there's more layers of stuff than you really need for any one school.
I also know that in talking with this consultant who was with Blackbaud for, I think it was like 12, 14 years.
Okay.
She's been out of there for a while, so she's got some good history. She said a lot of it happened during like they were on um, a purchase spree. So they
Mhm.
acquired a whole bunch of companies and then
Yeah,
they
because
tried
if
to
you go
integrate.
into their documentation, there's like there's the K to 12 stuff that we use, and then there's
Yeah,
a shit ton of stuff. And I'm like, oh my
right.
God, like what
Yeah.
different products do they have?
Yeah.
Um,
And it's kind of like back in the Microsoft days, they just kind of built crap on top of crap.
well, that's the other thing too, because
Yeah.
most systems, if you don't like at some point like redesign and start over, especially because
Right.
technology and design has changed too over the years,
Right.
um, you just start layering more stuff on, and all you need is to have had one developer that wrote really crappy code,
Right.
and then everything's like on, and then like, having done worked in that world for a while, it's like, yeah, then everything has to sit on top of that. And unless there's the budget and time for somebody to come in and like redesign it and overhaul it, um, right,
Exactly.
it just gradually starts to get quirkier and quirkier. And
Exactly.
I mean, like in the Robbie Griffin spreadsheet was a little bit like that too, because every time
Yes.
I like change something and something like completely seemingly unrelated would stop working. I'd be like, wait, like, why is that now broken? And then I'd like spend a bunch of time trying to figure out like how that gets that, gets that, gets that. And eventually I'd figure out how like this thing I did that seemed as on a completely different tab and seemed completely disconnected was actually more connected than I thought. And like it had, I mean, he did the same thing, although I don't really know why he did it because he was building a tool for like one school for one application. But
He
he
was
built a thing
Robbie.
that was like beyond flexible
He
in
was
terms of
Robbie.
like all the different like potent like, and that's why it was so incredibly complicated. I'm like, dude, all we're trying to do, we have like, under 200 students, and like
He made everything complicated. He
I'm
made it
like,
complicated than
in the
it
upper
needed
school, I'm
to
like, this is not like brain surgery. Like,
be.
we're not gonna suddenly turn into a school of like, we're not gonna turn into a university with like
Yeah.
20,000 students in it overnight. Like, I guarantee you. Um,
Before I forget, let me just tell you, just in case if you have a conversation with Kimberly. Kimberly does not know yet.
okay.
The reason being is Ashley and Virginia didn't want to tell her because she has a tendency, as you may know, to freak out, and
Yes.
and she may automatically think, oh wow, I'm getting blackballed back, and so they didn't want her to go down that road. They wanted to just, if they need her for like one-off tasks when the time comes, then they'll ask her to do that if it's needed. But they didn't want to freak her out. So
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I mean, I also like at this point, like I know um you got left with this idea that you were going to spend like a month plus trying to enroll the upper school. And
right.
which I could understand when you didn't know what the timing was. Like that was stressful. So
Yeah.
yeah, like the upper school is basically good to go, other than the sports.
Great.
Um, and if you're happy, I'm happy to like take like and sort of reinvent the sports as like trimester one, trimester two, trimester three, and kind of tweak them so that they're ready to go.
I'm fine with that. Just let Adam know because I know Adam was going to start to. I think Adam was saying he was going to start to enroll.
Well, how's he
Does he
gonna
do lower school or just or I mean, does he do
maybe
upper school
lower
or lower
schools? I was
school?
gonna say, oh, lower school's fine the way it is because they're not
Yeah.
really on
So maybe he
teams.
does. Maybe
I
he's just
don't know how he could do upper school because
he doesn't have the rosters yet.
yeah, there's no rosters, and I mean, sure, you could guess what like, and maybe like
Maybe he was just talking about lower school.
maybe. Yeah, so I can go and tweak because there's also so there's two things, which also like it's the only thing I have not totally figured out. Like if I go into Blackbaud, and let me share this back. There's like desktop. Here we go. Let's try that. Okay, so if I go into Blackbaud and I go back out of this core thing for a minute and go back to here. So we have it set up. And if I go back a year, it'll be easier because then we'll actually see some stuff with like people in it. And I hit manage classes, for example, and right, I do like, let me not do a fall one, only, oh, I guess I'm in, we'll go second semester. Whoops. So I can get this. All right. So if I go, uh, 7, 8 basketball, right? 7, 8 boys basketball, right? There's some coaches and there's the 7, 8 basketball players. Right. And this is what drives like the report cards, I think, and stuff. Um, right? The kids are in that. And then if I go back out to courses and I do like, where's 7A basketball, right? Like you can see the gradings in here in the new year. Oh, interesting. Okay, so here it is. Right, so here's like the skills,
Yep.
right? And all the stuff that they kind of put in the comments and the whatnot. Um, right? And all the scheduling, it's one term, but it's like in semester two right now. Um, right? So on and so forth, right? Because, but then there's this whole other thing. If I go to extracurriculars and I go to athletics, there's these teams.
Yeah, I looked at that.
And if I open these, this is where, you know how there's like blue and gold and Peck and Pride,
Yes.
all of that crap. That's where these seem to live. Um, and like this has like fall, winter, and spring seasons, which is what's set up under athletics as opposed to like trimesters. Um, and
So when we
if
were
I
doing the
go in
rollover,
here, right, it shows it's an upper school basketball, male. Um, doesn't have any grading stuff, so this doesn't seem to drive grading, but this seems to like have kids in it. Um, and so I don't know like how you, right? Like this seems to be where you can add sports and teams. Um,
and you got seasons over on the right-hand side,
and
and
I got seasons on the right side, right? And so basketball is clearly set up. Like if I edit this level of it, it's clearly set up as a winter season. Um, right. I can't change anything because like once you kind of create the stuff underneath it, it doesn't really let you tweak any of that stuff. But you can obviously add a sport, right? Put a name in, pick a season, right? So on and so forth. You can add teams, right? Which go under the sports,
yeah.
right? Which is how those other things got there.
So
Um,
this this
I don't even know what this does. Oh,
this
this is
was
like,
this was a little confusing to me when we did the rollover because Kimberly said to me, she said, "Okay, well there are sports academic classes, and then there's athletics."
yeah, and I don't
Like
really
what?
understand. Like, there's definitely some way to pull athletics in directly to the report card. Like obviously, if I look at uh, basketball winter, um, right, there's a way if I go here, boys blue, there's a way to put like grading in here, even though we're clearly not populating this because like none of these things are set. But at some point, like we must have used these and at some point we graded right and I can put a category in and all this other stuff. So there's definitely a way to do grading through here, even though we're not doing that.
let,
Um,
let me do this. I'm talking with my consultant tomorrow morning.
yeah, and I don't know whether like this would be a bigger change because we've never like enrolled the kids through this. Um, right? This seems to have like locations. Um, what I can't figure out is right, like if you do this, I don't know how you get the kids in them. That was the part that seemed very confusing
Hmm.
because like if I go to activities, right,
Yeah,
that has more of a setup that feels a lot like what we're used to if we think about like scheduling, right? And I can like
yeah, you have student
student
enrollment.
enrollment, but notice like the sports don't show up in here,
Huh,
right? Like I can get the kids,
huh.
right? But like if I go here, right? I don't know that there's a way to enroll them in, right? This is like all the stuff she's enrolled in normally, like that I put her in. Um, right? And this is where I could add stuff, but I don't think there's a way, unless you can do it here, first semester, right? This is like how you could do it. This is the most painful way to enroll a kid in something.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like athletics isn't a choice. These are all the academic departments. Um, and there doesn't seem to be an athletics choice in here. Oh, unless if I switch. Yeah, so maybe this is how you do it. Oh, and then maybe I can add her.
Yeah.
Oh, so I could put her in
Oh, yeah, all the teams.
sports this way, I guess. But there must be a better way because this would be really annoying.
Let me ask tomorrow.
If I
I'll
go
see if she
back
has any
out.
ideas.
Yes, if I do enroll group, I wonder if you can do student. Yeah, you can probably do it here. So if I did student academics and I said upper school and I said eighth grade, let's just say for kicks, and you hit search, right? Notice that you load like here's the eighth grade. And then I wonder, like, let's say I wanted to put Julietta and Hadley into a sport, right? So you move over the users you want if you're doing it this way, right? And then you can do next. And yeah, now I'm in activities and there's no like items here, right? Like, because it doesn't give me athletics in this section as a choice. Like this only, the enroll group only seems to work for activities, whereas the individual student enrollment does seem to let me add them to athletics. What I couldn't find was like an efficient way to enroll them in athletics.
Yeah.
Other than maybe I wonder if like the file way works. Like I wonder if you do data import.
I'm writing a note to myself right now.
Yeah, data import, you can do athletic groups and probably do athletic roster or something. And maybe like if I hit this file layout, user ID, we can't do host ID. But what if I did this? Yeah, so you could probably somehow enroll them in sports like this. Obviously, we're not going to fill in all this other crap like locker combos and heights and weights and jersey numbers and positions, all this chaotic nonsense. Um, but none of that's required. So the only stuff you really have to populate are like a user ID and a section ID, and you could obviously put,
They probably have that all that in there for the either for the LMS or for the sites.
yeah.
Like,
So I guess you could file load them. Um, but I don't know if there's like a middle ground, like the way I can do like a more efficient load. Um, but we could probably load them into sports. Like we'd probably potentially have to go set the like the grading like groupy things into like so that would be a bigger thing because we probably don't have like the categories you want in there and the comment like so we'd have to set all of that up
okay.
versus like just taking the academic sports, which is where we've kind of put all the grading controls for the kids, and just trimester that at least. So it's not like in semesters, it's like at least in trimesters. That would be like the smaller like option, right? Versus the putting them in athletics. So like we could do either, but I think we should do something other than this weird semester one, semester two thing.
I will ask her tomorrow.
Okay.
I got to
And then you
run.
let me know if you want to do, if you want to keep the academic sports, so it's a smaller lift, especially with the other uncertainties that you've got right now, that I could easily pivot over to trimesters the same way I did, because I know exactly what steps I did when I did it for the arts rotation, so I could just do the same stuff. And there's no like huge urgency because I don't think Adam's going to enroll kids into that stuff until we get like the kids come back,
Oh yeah, yeah. Definitely.
right? And so
All right.
that's less urgent right now. Like he might enroll coaches and create like that stuff, um, but that's easy to move over.
Okay. I got to run. But if you can send me that CSV,
Okay, do you want like a bigger one with like a whole grade and lots of subjects to you, or do you want the little one with the world languages?
can you give me both?
Yeah, I'll send you that one and I'll send you like, I don't know, like the one with all the eights or something.
Okay, that sounds great.
Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll send, well, I guess you don't have any trimester stuff for lower school, so you don't really need that. So I'll just send you the eights because they don't have any trimesters either.
Right.
But they do have a little bit of semester two stuff, but mostly like full year stuff.
That's true. That's
All
true.
right, I will send that over, and then that way you can kind of see what it's supposed to look like. And then yeah.
Sounds great, Aim. I appreciate it.